Hello and welcome to Presenting, a podcast where we chat about various topics related to role-playing games, typically Paizo products such as Pathfinder and Starfinder, but also others. I'm John Godick, and with me today is Mike Bramnik. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome. We met one time at Gen Con, the last Gen Con
Yep.
before the whole pandemic thing blew up. I
Yep.
think that's, unless you're at Origins as well.
Nope. Nope.
I don't,
I was supposed to go to Origins that year, but that fell through.
okay.
So yeah, Gen Con
Yeah.
2019. You and I were the only two GMs running the super high tier for the
Yep.
Starfinder
Yep.
special.
Yep. That's right. So anyway, so it's great connecting with you. I'm sorry it took 2 years, but
Yep. It's still good to see
good.
you.
Yeah, good to see you. Well, so Mike is a venture captain for Southern Indiana. He's also the PaizoCon online committee chair, and he's a relatively new RPG freelance author. So he achieved the 5-star GM status for Pathfinder, first edition, back in 2014, as well as a 5 Nova GM status for Starfinder for 2020. And I hear he's gunning for the 5 glyph here pretty soon as well. Is that right?
Probably not super soon. I'm closing in on my fourth, but
Yeah, that's great. Well, I got to tell you, I've stuck with Starfinder mostly in terms of GMing, but I've been playing a lot more Pathfinder second edition, and I'm hoping this summer with the conventions and stuff to start doing Pathfinder GMing. I'm kind of, I've got so many tables of Starfinder. I'm happy to branch off into something new. So
yeah, I mean, I play and GM a ton of Starfinder, but I'll tell you the mechanics and just the robust mechanics. Second edition
yes,
has been really growing on me.
yeah, that's the same with me. I'm playing in an AP and I do a bunch of scenarios, and I just love the system. And when I go back, it's like, oh, I wish I had this. I wish I had this. So we'll see. Maybe down the road, it's getting to be 5 years old. Maybe they'll make some changes. I don't know.
Who knows?
All right. Well, so Mike, can you talk about what you do for organized play, especially this whole PaizoCon thing? That sounds like it's a really big thing, and kind of what also you do there in Indiana.
Well, as far as PaizoCon, for the most part, we have the same team that we had for last year's PaizoCon, just with the titles have been adjusted to fit sort of what we do. So
All
Ivis
right.
Flanagan, who I believe you've spoken with already
Yep.
on the podcast, is the committee coordinator. So basically, is in charge of both halves of the show. Because
Mm-hmm.
PaizoCon is going to be online this year as well as in person again at
Right.
last in Seattle, and she makes sure that both halves of the show are consistent. That the in person lead David Peaver and
Mm-hmm.
myself that we're both uh, running our ships correctly, and that they're side by side, so that one of us isn't running some procedure for contacting GMs, and the other one is just doing it differently,
Right.
and making sure it's one coherent show. Um, my side is to have in addition to the two of us, also both hiring department heads and other volunteers to work for us. Getting GMs online, getting the
Mm-hmm.
schedule set, making sure that the Discord server for the online section, the Discord server is set up correctly, that we have a schedule in place. Um, I got to experience for the first time the fun of scheduling over 800 games over the course of a weekend.
Wow. Wow.
Which last year Ivis and handled more of, and
Right. Right.
Ivis is a wizard at doing stuff with Excel, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was good at Excel. I was not as good as I thought I was, but that was a new doing that many games at once. That was a new experience,
Right.
but it was
Now
good.
you've coordinated for Gen Con in the past. How's that compare doing the in online for PaizoCon and the in person for Gen Con?
The stuff I've done for Gen Con is a bit different because of my proximity. I live in Bloomington, Indiana, which is only about an hour's drive,
Mm-hmm.
road construction depending. Um, the two seasons in the Midwest, winter and road construction.
Right.
So drive time depending about an hour from Gen Con. Um, so several years ago, we discovered that it would be cheaper to do all of the printing, Chronicle Sheets, boons, back when we had
Mm-hmm.
boons for all the systems, Chronicle Sheets, boons, posters, what have you, here at a local print shop that supplies to Indiana University, and then have me drive it up a couple days before the convention than it
Right.
would be to have Paizo print it in in the Pacific Northwest and put it
Right.
on a shipping pallet, or to have them come out a few days earlier and print it at a Kinko's in downtown Indianapolis to the tune of saving several $1,000s.
Right.
So that's what we've been doing for the last few years. Is Paizo now works with this print shop, and I've been the one who's been coordinating the printing. So that's really the only part of Gen Con I've been helping with.
Okay. And
I mean,
that's
I've been
why you had
running
the
games at
maps
Gen
for
Con.
the special then, right? Because I
Yep.
remember you printed out a bunch of maps for the special because your work with the print shop there?
Yep. And as a result,
Oh,
because you put in so much for print shops,
yeah.
volume makes them they it gets for them the time consuming part is setting up the files and then they
Right.
set the machines to run. So if you're putting through 50 copies of something, it doesn't cost them a whole lot more time, in terms of effort. So the more volume you do, the cheaper it is per copy. We figured out a few
Mhm.
years before I started doing Chronicle sheets and things for Gen Con that the more GMs I could get on board to do custom maps, the cheaper it was per map.
Right.
So some of my local volunteers and we started recruiting people, and then I think starting with I forget, I think it was season 6 in first
Mhm.
edition PFS, we started working up custom maps, cleaning them up a little bit because when you blow up some of the maps, they get a little
Right.
blurry.
Oh, yeah. No, I hear you.
And
I hear
then
you.
saying, hey, if GMs you want to buy in, depending on how many GMs we get, it'll be this much, and Mr. Cobby, especially once they started getting the Paizo order for printing, they started cutting down the map costs as a sort of
Right.
a thank you. So it's literally a win for everybody.
No, that was super helpful. In fact, now it gets me thinking that, maybe we should have some organized play map organization where you have, hey, anybody wants to buy maps from here, Color Maps, just sign up here and run a big print run for all the scenarios.
My understanding is that was actually looked into
Yeah.
as a licensing
Yeah.
thing, and they said no
Oh,
because they couldn't, their quality control people couldn't look at it,
wow.
because they would
Okay.
have to look at each individual map before it was sent out. Uh,
Wow. Okay. Well,
so because
that's too
otherwise
bad.
that would be really cool. Otherwise,
Yeah, it
because
would, man.
I'm a terrible artist, and I would
Yeah, same.
always prefer to print the maps out of
Yep.
scenarios rather than and let because especially because some of them are really cool. And
Right.
running in person, I would rather people see the really cool map
Mm-hmm.
than my really bad drawing on a chess or or a blank or a
Yep.
piezo flip mat, a blank flip mat than that.
Yeah, I even now, I have some home games here. I'm running Devastation Art. No, actually, um, Horizons of the Vast. I'm running that. And man, that book one, I printed out like 20 maps, but I print them all out in color, put them all together. If
Mhm.
I could pay somebody a reasonable amount to give me awesome colored copies and ship them, I would be all over that. Man. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
me
that
too.
that's too bad. Maybe Starfinder and Pathfinder Infinite can offer something like that. Who knows?
That'd
You
be
know.
something worth looking into.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, so you've been doing a lot with org play for a while. How did you get started with that in the first place, and then rise up to venture captain, which is like pretty high up in the organization?
Let's see. I think it's single combat with a sword, and you take the head of no. That's something. That's something else. Sorry, I shouldn't. I'm not supposed to talk about that part. Um, well, actually, started with organized play. I started with organized play in a funny way, almost by accident. Um, I was I run a multi-year campaign with friends back when I was still living in Illinois, Northern Illinois University,
Hmm.
and our campaign ended after 2.5 years, and there was about 4 months before a bunch of us were graduating, leaving. I was going to be set to be moving to Indiana to go for my PhD, and we realized that we had still had like 4 months or so, but we still wanted to play. But nobody had a campaign idea ready. Nobody had any. So I started looking around online and I find about this thing called the Pathfinder Society, where
Hmm.
there's these 4 hour adventures. And so I start looking up how it works and I say, hey guys, what do you think about this? And everyone was excited. So we started running Pathfinder Society games out of the geology building at NIU.
Wow.
Um, I started asking some questions around on the forums, and a member of the one of the Chicago area games gets in touch with me, starts telling me how the venture officer system works. He comes out and drives out to us to run a game for us, which is the first time I got to play.
Hmm.
Apparently, I had already actually gotten, without knowing it, my first star as a GM before I got
Yeah.
to play for the first time. Um, and I think Mike Mistel is his name. I don't know if he's still playing or not because I haven't talked to him in a couple of
Yeah.
years with the pandemic and everything.
Right. Right.
Um, and just started running games like that when I moved to Indiana. So I looked up to see if there was anyone playing Society play. Found out there was, the local one of the local game stores was running it.
Hmm.
Uh, I had a whirlwind of a move. I defended my thesis on a Thursday, packed up my apartment on a Friday,
Yeah.
moved on a Saturday, and the following Monday went to my first PFS game in Bloomington. Found out that they had no one organizing their games. It was just the store owner would just pick a scenario at random and then say, "Hey,
Hmm.
we're going to run this a couple tables."
Yeah.
So after playing with them for a month or two, talked with the store owner, talked with some of the other GMs because I'd already been. I mean, I've been GMing forever.
Right.
Talked with so I started GMing as soon as I moved as well. Talked with the other GMs, talked with the store owner. Said, did anyone have an interest in becoming a venture officer? No one really did. They said they would be cool if someone did, though.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I got in touch with then. At the time, there was only one venture captain for Indiana, uh, and over the course of that was 2012, and then at the end of 2012, she made me a venture lieutenant. Ran our first convention early 2013. Uh, you know, 2013 was a little tumultuous in terms of organized play stuff.
Right.
Indiana went through a couple of venture captains, and then early 2014, the retiring venture captain Chris Bonnet recommended me to become a venture captain for the Southern or for Bloomington. Uh, I was made venture captain, and then eventually, as more areas joined organized play, I was made venture captain for just the southern part of the state. And
Hmm.
you know,
Oh.
now I've got a couple of venture lieutenants who report to me, and
Yeah.
including one more, Jim Crace, who's going to be joining the VL ranks
Nice.
anywhere between a couple of hours and a couple of days from now, and hopefully our numbers will continue to grow
Yeah.
as hopefully, knock on wood, we will see only a decline in the pandemic and a return to
Oh
in-person
yeah.
gaming.
No, for sure. For sure. So you get a PhD in geology, is that right?
I was trying for one, but
Oh, okay. I'm
as
sorry. You
the
were working on
no, no,
one.
it's yep, as the movie The Right Stuff
Yeah.
so wonderfully put it. No bucks, no Buck Rogers. So
Yeah.
the funding with no funding,
Right. Right.
yeah, I am not independently wealthy, so I could not afford. Once my funding dried up, I could not continue.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm. So, but you have a master's. You did a master's thesis then in geology, right? With the
yeah,
coursework, it sounds like.
yeah,
Yeah. When
yeah.
when I was in my PhD program, I actually was going to quit. My father was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I was going to go home, and they were going to offer me a master's if I finished. And he ended up telling me I got to stay, so I stayed. I was going to say, I was like, wow, I keep meeting more people with PhDs because I thought you had one. But that said, that graduate work in geology, has that helped you at all in your game running or now that you're a freelancer in your game design work?
Definitely both.
Right.
Decidedly both, because especially when you're running game for a bunch of fellow geologists,
Right.
the jokes about, well, what kind of, it's like you enter a cave, especially late at night. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you enter
Yeah.
a cave. It's like, oh, well, what kind of cave is it?
Yeah.
Is it, does it have a karst structure, or is it a? And then we start getting into these hilarious late night debates
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
you know, it can get pretty. Geologists are known for two things in general outside of geology, which is drinking and really bad puns, and rock jokes. And I don't drink, so I have to make up for it with you know a slippery slope of rock puns and other jokes.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I think that's a requirement for GMs is you have to be good with jokes and puns. So yeah.
Generally,
Well,
no, but it's been a great boon for running games, and also especially for writing.
right.
Because being able to write about, being able to include things that about ecology or just the environment in general, science in general, especially, because wanting to contribute to Starfinder, I've been wanting to contribute to Starfinder pretty much since I learned Starfinder existed.
Right.
And the fact that I finally got the chance to do so was just, it was just writing the Starfinder bounty that I did. That's the day that we're recording this is actually going to be coming out. The
Today.
Starfinder bounty. Yep, today.
Right. Today. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
I got the email, right, saying, hey, these are the things that are coming out. So I'm pretty excited because I'm actually scheduled to play it this weekend with you.
excellent.
Yeah.
So you'll get the full experience, including soundtrack. Excellent.
Oh, you're going to do a soundtrack too? Oh, man. Now I feel
Something I try
bad
to. Oh
because I
no,
don't do a soundtrack for mine. So,
no, it's. I mean, it's not a requirement. It's just
yeah.
for
Yeah, I know.
me. I try to do soundtracks with all my games
Yeah.
because which is it. Admittedly, it's as much for me as it is for the players, just because
Yeah.
you know, I do everything better with music. So
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So, can you tell me how did you get the opportunity to write both a Pathfinder bounty and now the Starfinder bounty? How that process come about?
better lucky than good. No, no, no. As I said, I've been wanting to. I mean, uh, pretty much since my academic career ended, within a few months of that, I actually applied to work at Paizo once. I didn't get it, but I've applied for various openings. The RPG industry is something I've been trying to kind of get my foot in the door, but it's a very competitive industry.
Right. Right.
Um, so some 7 years after my first attempt, I apparently knocked on the right door, right place, right time, right writing sample. Uh, Mike Kimmel, who's now the Pathfinder Society
Yep.
developer, put out an open call over Twitter for
Oh
potential
yeah, I
writers,
remember that. Yeah.
which I answered. And I was asked for a writing sample. I sent in a writing sample, and a couple of friends of mine who are already freelancers. I don't know if they talked up the fact that I sent in something or not,
Yeah.
but a couple months after that, Thurston Hillman, who's the developer for digital one shots and Pathfinder bounties and interactives, at the time was doing that and other things. Dropped me a line and said, "Hey, I hear a rumor that you are interested in doing some writing,"
Yeah.
and offered me a chance to do a Pathfinder bounty. Um, a couple months after that, Jessica Catalan, Starfinder developer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, got in touch with me and said, "Hey, I understand that you are interested in doing more work." Offered me a Starfinder bounty, and so I don't know, right place, right time.
Nice. Well, I think it speaks to some with your experience with organized play as well. I mean, my take on these bounties is they're actually the org play agnostic, right? They don't mention the Starfinder or Pathfinder Society,
Mm-hmm.
but they are designed to get new players interested in the game. And who better to know what a new player needs than somebody who's run 150, 200 tables of each of the systems?
And it's something I think you and I both together separately on Discord noticed that the first two bounties were
Yes.
two of the first five Nova GMs. So no, I agree. It's they are organized play agnostic. Uh, Good for new players, good to teach the system to the new players, but also good for veteran players who can just
Right.
want to just want to kick back for an hour or so and just play something. And the thing with mine, which I'm very glad about, because this is an aspect of the system that I've always enjoyed, and I know
Mm-hmm.
not everyone likes it as much as I do. That my bounty is starship focused.
Right. Oh,
Uh,
cool. I'm
after
excited.
after the yeah, after the introduction, the entire adventure takes
Yeah.
place on board a starship. So
Nice. Have you run it yet for anybody?
not in its published form, because as I said, it
Okay.
just releases today.
Right. Right. Right.
And ran
Yeah.
it through a play test. Actually, of the play tests, I only ran one of them myself, so I've only really run it once myself.
I was fortunate. So mine came out last month, right? And so I ran it, and then somebody in another game I was playing that weekend had played in it, and so I was able to get two sets of feedback from it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I noticed is that when I ran it, it ran long. It ran about an hour and a half. And then the other person I talked to who had played it with somebody else said they went 2 hours. because they were just having so much fun doing role playing and stuff with it. So I'm thinking, now I'm worried because this weekend Jocelyn only gave us 1 hour slots for our bounties. So it's like, oh man. And she was in mine when she said, "Yeah, when you run this for Emerald Con, you're gonna have to tighten that up quite a bit." I said, "Okay, all right." But yeah, so you've had this kind of a unique opportunity to write for both systems, bounties for both.
Yeah.
How was that experience? How challenging was that, or how easy was that, or how fun was that? It's because I haven't written any adventures for Pathfinder. I have no idea how the two would compare.
I found the process it was very similar for both. Just the nature of bounties was, the expectations of what you're supposed to do as an author, the parameters you're given in terms of the bounty. Um, it was fairly similar for both. Um, the Starfinder one had a little bit, just by the nature of the adventure. The Starfinder
Right.
one had a little bit more freedom in crafting the encounter, or the encounters, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Actually, I take that back. They were both. The Pathfinder one had a little bit more freedom in the, because your typical bounty for Starfinder has, or for sorry, excuse me, for Pathfinder has always been, introduction, setting, and then either a skill challenge, or you run through, some social dynamic,
Right.
and then eventually there is some sort of conflict that the PCs must resolve.
Right.
The format stays, having, I actually haven't had a chance to play. I've wanted to, but I haven't had a chance to play through yours yet.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, there aren't. I'm one of the few Starfinder GMs in the state of Indiana, and therefore I'm GMing a lot more than I have a chance to play. Uh,
Yeah.
so,
You're not
but
doing a good job training people. I've trained up a whole bunch of GMs since I've been here. So now I actually have to fight for spots to GM Starfinder, which is one reason why I'm going over to Pathfinder, because there's a shortage of Pathfinder second edition GMs now because I got so many people doing Starfinder.
yeah, we were doing good at that before the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Despite Starfinder being the sci-fi game, a lot
Yeah.
of our local Starfinder GMs didn't want to make the jump to GMing online. So
Oh, yeah, that's
that,
tough. Yeah, that's tough.
that
Yeah.
happens. Yeah, but it's, yeah, the yeah, crafting both bounties. The structure was the same. The process was very
Right.
similar.
Cool.
You know,
So coming up on Memorial Day weekend, we have PaizoCon.
yes.
And I know March 6th, they had GM signups opened up. I signed up for some games,
Hmm.
and those go until April 9th, right? That's when,
Yes,
okay. And do you still need GMs for that?
we do. We need. I don't recall. I think we might still have some spots for GMs for the in person show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Although we're still waiting to hear back from Paizo on what the deal is with tickets for the show, in terms
Right,
of its,
right.
people who want to attend who aren't GMing at least
Mm-hmm.
4 games. For the online show, we have. We were being a little ambitious with the schedule, so we decided
Right.
to offer as many, if not more, online tables than we did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we knew that, some people are 2 years into the pandemic, some people are getting burned out with online games.
Right.
We decided to offer as many games as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I looked, we had filled about 80% of our second edition games,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then about 60% of our first edition and Starfinder games.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have a good 100 games or so that don't have GMs, all
So
told.
if people are interested, they can still go to the Organized Play Foundation site, click on the form for GMing for PaizoCon, and you're still accepting folks in.
Absolutely.
All right,
The
cool.
game selection is not obviously, because, a couple of hundred GMs have already gone through the schedule and
Right.
signed up
Oh
for
yeah,
things. So the game selection is not as varied as it is,
yeah.
as it was. That said, for people who want to volunteer to run, 4, 5, 6 games over the course of the weekend, we're more than willing to. If someone's like, man, I really wanted to run, these ones, but I'm not comfortable running these ones. For people who want to volunteer that many hours, we might be willing to do a little bit of
Oh,
tweaking to the
cool.
schedule. So long as we get, because Paizo sends us a list and says, "Hey, we really want you to focus on these
Right.
particular adventures
Right.
because they might." Here's a little bit of, for anyone who might be listening to this. Sometimes we might be offering some things from the back catalog because they might
Right.
be important for upcoming seasons.
Right.
Maybe, you know, or Paizo might have just said, "Hey, we would like you to offer these for reasons we're not allowed to tell you."
Hmm.
Or maybe we're just offering them because they've happened to fit the level range that we need to fill. You never know.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was going, I went through it pretty early Saturday after it opened, and I was looking at specific games for specific time slots, and somebody had already beat me to those. So I said, oh, I was looking to do the fifth season intros at certain
Hmm.
time slots, and for the online, somebody had already nabbed all the ones I wanted. So I said,
Yeah,
okay, well, that's fine. I'm just going to go backfill and try to GM stuff I haven't had the chance to GM yet. So I went and did older things because all the new stuff, my local lodge will be high demand to GM, but like the older things, it's like everybody's already done them a couple times, so there's no need. So that's a lot what I do with the cons is I either run brand new stuff that isn't going to be out for a while, or I run old stuff to fill in gaps and things. So
were you able to get a seat for the Starfinder special though
I well,
to GM it?
I didn't sign up to GM it. And let me
No?
tell you why.
Okay.
I have done, before they changed the special requirements, I had already run over a dozen Starfinder specials. In addition to all the other things that they did, to get your five Novas, I probably had double after they added all that extra stuff. And so I've never played a special when it first came out.
Nice.
So I want to play a special when it first comes out, having not GM'd it, having not looked through the book and poured through all the different levels and know everything that's going to happen. So I intentionally, because there's always a lot of people that want to run it, like you're alluding to, and so I figure, and the fact it only goes up to 8th level, the high level stuff I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with, and I'm fine running super high level stuff. But since it's all low level stuff, I figured there's lots of people that can do that.
Fair enough. And I'm glad you're going to get to play it first.
Yes, yes.
It's
So
a luxury I don't get a lot either myself.
I
So
well, and that's kind of what I'm trying to change up now is when something new comes out, I try to play it and then GM it. It's because I can be pickier because I have lots of other people that want to GM already. And we have a lot of Pathfinder second edition players here in the Seattle area, but we have a lot of Starfinder players as well. It's probably a pretty balanced base. So every
mhm.
weekend, every weekend, so across Saturday, Sunday, Monday, there's usually a couple games of each across each day. So we have a lot of tables, a lot of players going. So we're pretty fortunate. Of course, we're really close to Paizo, so maybe that helps. I don't know.
it, it might.
So
It might.
so I do have another question though, and this is kind of
Mhm.
a mechanical question about uh, GMing and reporting. So we're using RPG Chronicles for the online, I'm guessing, right?
GMs can do that if they would like.
Okay, if
Yes.
they like. Okay, they don't. Okay, I thought so. Some cons, it's actually kind of built in the reporting and the whole system. They do that, but you guys aren't doing that. It's like we have to
I believe
self report to you and submit separate and
I believe we're going to be using. There's one of the adventure officer out of Boston, Eric,
right.
created called RPG Con Assist,
Oh,
um,
okay, right, right,
which makes reporting real easy. RPG
right,
Chronicles
right,
is a tool that people can use to make doing chronicle sheets easier for them.
right,
Um, I believe that developer is also working on a reporting tool.
right, right.
Um,
Yeah, he's got it. And I guess I was thinking Con Assist actually, because with
okay.
RPG Chronicles you can cut and paste the block into Con Assist, push go, and it does everything. And so
Mhm.
you guys are going to do that for the online, right?
Yes,
Right.
we may try and do something so that the HQ people in person might be doing uploading their information as well. That way, we have a digital record of everything,
Okay.
so that we don't run into a situation. Some years ago, Gen Con had a thing where it took almost a year to get all the reporting done. Our goal is to make sure that if
Yeah.
there's any sort of a hiccup with the in-person stuff, we at least have all the records digitally.
Right.
Therefore, volunteers can we can just set a
Right.
volunteer loose and say, "Hey, you're free this weekend. Could you help us with the reporting? And then just knock it out over the course of a
Right.
weekend.
Well, I guess what I was wondering though is for the in person, are they going to do in person chronicles or can they do digital? Does it all have to be handed out at the table?
That is something I don't think we've discussed yet. I think the assumption is that if you're running in person, you're going to get a physical chronicle sheet.
Yeah.
Um, whether
Just,
organized play as a whole moves purely digital,
yeah.
I think that might be above my pay grade still.
Yeah. As a GM, I would love to be able to have people because they're signing up via Warhorn, right? Still for tables
Hmm.
in person.
Yeah.
Have a link to my RPG Chronicle. Because we do that for in person now, right? In our local lodge. And then they fill it all out. When I'm done with the game, I can go on my phone, push a button, it gets all sent to them. If they need a hard copy, they print it. I don't have to print a bunch of things, take it to a con and do all that kind of stuff. So I was just hoping maybe that was coming down the road. That's all. Okay. You don't
Yeah.
nothing you know of. Okay.
Yeah, that. Those are discussions that I am
Yeah.
not. If they are being discussed for
Yeah.
for convention wide or OPF wide stuff, that is stuff that is I am not
Yeah.
privy to.
All right. Well, I will try to convince Alex of why that's a good reason. So a good thing to do.
Fair enough.
All right. So what advice do you have for people interested in getting into org play, specifically online, because there's some challenge for that, but also doing it in person?
Well, as far as the online thing, the most important thing I can say is don't let the tech scare you. Um, the first observation, because I've also been asked to do as a venture captain, we do evaluate for people going for their fifth novas, fifth glyphs,
Mm-hmm.
to do evaluation games. So we're the ones who kind of be like, yep, you meet this qualification, this qualification. We go through like a checklist of things. But the most important piece of feedback I always give GMs is, did the players have fun?
Right.
That's not one of the criteria on the list. But for me, it's the most important thing. Um, you can't teach how to be a fun GM. If you if you have fun at the table and the people around you are having fun, that's the essence of a good game right there.
Right.
So if you're interested in GMing and you think you'd be good at it, you're interested in being on the other side of the GM screen and telling the collaborative story with the players, as and on that side, reach out to your local GMs, reach out to your local venture officers about getting you going. Don't let the tech scare you. I've gotten the opportunity to play games with some amazing GMs who've run a game off of a single Google slide. They put a
Yep.
map or two on a Google slide
Yep.
and everyone rolled dice. You know, one person was rolling dice on Roll20, one person was rolling dice
Yeah.
on a Discord channel, one person was rolling dice sitting next to them on a dinner tray. And it was one of the best games I ever played in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I played another game, a system that apparently is popular in Australia called Astral, where there
Mm-hmm.
were various, the players, the character sheets for the players was very simple, but the GM had bells and whistles that I'd never seen before.
Hmm.
Um, and the fact that the interface was vastly different and had all these options, didn't change the content of the game for me.
Right.
Um, so if you want to GM, you want to have fun, just GM and have fun. And you don't even it helps to know the rules well. You don't have to. You will almost always have someone at the table who
Yeah.
knows the rule,
Yep.
and you're allowed to expect the players. If they're brand new, that's different. But you're
Right.
allowed to expect the players to know how the rules for their own characters work.
Right. Right.
Focus on having fun. Focus on telling a fun story. That's really the core of it.
Yeah. I will
And
say, as much as I've played and GM'd, there are a lot of rules I don't know 100% that I still need to look up just to be sure. And I don't feel bad about that because there's a lot to know and
yeah,
it keeps changing, so
yeah, and especially now for people who GM multiple systems, first
yeah,
edition, second edition, Starfinder, there will be people, myself included, who regularly remember a rule and then 3 seconds later go, wait,
yeah,
no, wrong edition. I'm sorry, it's this, not that.
right, right. No, for sure.
That'll that will, yeah, that's not even it can happen, it will happen.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned Astral, and I've seen that. I haven't played it. It looks pretty cool. Are you still playing primarily Roll20? Because I know I've gotten tables from you that were Roll20, or have you
Yeah,
ventured into Foundry with other people?
I have not had a chance to try Foundry yet,
Yeah,
and especially as my local area is starting, we are actually dipping our toe back into in person gaming
yeah,
starting next week. So we're doing a mix of online and in person.
hmm
At some point, I decided, I'm like, you know what? I've spent 2 years mastering the ins and outs of Roll20, dynamic
yeah,
lighting, light cone shading, some animated effects, weaving music and sound effects into my games. It's like I spent 2 years mastering the system. We're about to go back in person. We hope we're not going to be forced back into any more shutdowns. I don't feel like teaching myself another online system at this point. If I need to, then I will. But for the moment,
yeah.
I'm pretty good with this one. I'm going to stick with this one for now.
No, I hear you. I've done most of my online has been with Roll20, and I feel very comfortable with it. Uh, a lot of folks, I on Black Friday last year, I got a license for Foundry, so I've been running some Foundry. I love how the system works, but I always forget how to build characters and do certain things in it. So it's like
Hmm.
I with Roll20, it's such a simple platform that's pretty easy to remember the work you have to do. For Foundry, it's such a complex platform that simplifies the running that it makes it harder for me to remember how to do stuff. So,
Fair
uh,
enough.
yeah. But I don't know. I'm hoping to get more into it. It's again, we have local folks that are doing it. Alex likes running it, so I end up playing a lot in Foundry, so kind of get used to that. So, what's next for Mike? What kind of cool stuff are you working on? Writing wise or org play wise or whatever that you can actually talk about.
Well, I mean, org play wise, as you mentioned, we have PaizoCon coming up, end of May, and Gen Con, which,
Yeah,
health and safety for everyone in the
right.
continental United States and rest of the world, you know, will hopefully continue to improve. As long as that continues to hold, I will actually be attending Gen Con in
Yeah,
person this year, uh, along with several of my local GMs.
yeah,
Get a carpooling up and
yeah.
trying to avoid the highway robbery parking prices.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Or even finding the spots too, and then paying a lot for them. Oh man.
yeah, it's yeah. The local businesses and the businesses in Indianapolis know when it's convention season.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
anyways, yeah. So PaizoCon and then Gen Con. Writing wise, I believe I'm permitted to say that I am working on some things. Some opportunities have arisen that I'm excited about, for things that are as of yet unannounced.
nice, nice. For multiple systems or one system?
Um, Actually, because not all apparently not all of it is Paizo, so I can say yes, multiple systems, because
Okay, there you go.
there's potential that I may be doing something for a company other than Paizo now. So
Good,
uh,
good. Are you?
so yes, multiple
Yeah,
systems.
are you looking forward to that? Work doing more freelance work?
I am. It's as I said, it's something I've been wanting to
Yeah,
get into since 2015,
yeah.
um,
Wow.
and I've been very fortunate. That really it was just. When the open when Mike Kimmel put out that open call, and and some of my friends, especially I mentioned Ivis Flanagan earlier,
Yeah,
kind of kind of kicked me in the butt and said, okay, seriously, stop debating about it and
yeah.
just send the email. I sent the email, and things have been kicking off since then.
Awesome.
And speaking of Ivis and speaking of PaizoCon, I believe I am allowed to say that. So the Wayfinder magazine has an adventure, a sidetrack adventure they call it, in each issue.
hmm
Ivis and I got selected to write that adventure for this year's Wayfinder, and that will be releasing at PaizoCon as well.
Yeah,
And we're waiting to hear back from the people at Paizo, even though Ivis and I are coincidentally helping run the convention. We're waiting to hear back from the people at Paizo to get their permission to run our own adventure at PaizoCon. if
Right.
we do get that permission, Ivis will be running one table of it in person in Seattle, and I'll be running one table of it online during the course of the weekend.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard there's been a delay on that. I know a couple other people have been waiting to hear back, and I don't know what the news is on it. So
Yeah, I don't either. I know that they are swamped with a lot of stuff right now, so
yeah.
I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. Though that they'll get back to us when they can.
All right. Well, Mike, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been great catching up with you, and I I don't know that I'll make it to Gen Con this year. I have my own medical issues that I'm unable to be around crowded places yet. My transplant team hasn't allowed it. So as soon as I can,
Uh,
though, I want to get back to Gen Con.
no, as my old rabbi always used to say, it's your health is what's most
Yeah,
important. So as long as you stay healthy, that's the most important thing. It's good to
excellent.
see you though.
Good to see you. All right. Thanks again.
No, thank you, John.